November 4th, 2020 to order. I think the first thing we can do is I have to read a thing from the governor. Is pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Municipal Building Committee is conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, and every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by tuning into Westborough TV. With that said, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of the October 7th meeting. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve as printed.
Okay. Okay. Motion by Dexter, seconded by Jim. We'll do a roll call vote. Dexter?
Yes.
Jim Stewart?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Al Gordon, yes. That's unanimous. Okay, I guess we'll turn the meeting over to Peter Collins. Hello, Peter.
Good morning. Sorry, a little glitch there.
No problem.
Let me share my screen now. 1 second. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee members. Just presenting the report, kind of a follow-up from our last meeting. Is Jonathan Ennis or Matt Rex from 5 Star on the call?
Jonathan Ennis is here with 5 Star.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Good morning.
Good morning.
Maybe we can ask you to provide some updates on the project with respect to the first 3 or 4 items, punch list, rooftop units, and we can get into some commissioning, owner training. I'll let you hit the first 2 if you'd like, please.
All right, for the punch list, I know we were still working on a few small items. I believe that the HVAC, all the items on them have been completed. We're just waiting on final confirmation, and I will send out final updated punch list. And we know that L&L Rail had the rails fabricated, and they were out on site making sure everything fit, and the work should be done. We were also waiting on a final confirmation for that. We were also scheduling the company to come back and change the hardware height on the ADA accessible booths in the bathroom. Besides that, there were only a couple other items that I do the final update, and I'll get that out by tomorrow. We'll see where we're at, but it should be very close to done. I know there is an item that Energy Electric planned on doing when they come back for their training, but if we need to get them there sooner to get that, if the antenna on the side of the building off, we can definitely schedule that to get it off the list. And I think we're pretty much ready to do a walkthrough. So when I send that list out, we'll propose some dates to see when everyone's available to do the walk. And for the HVAC, I know that the commissioning happened, I believe it was on the 26th, and we've been notified that the fan was not installed then because there was some issues with some fuses on one of the other RTUs, and we've yet to fully talk with Adams yet. We were just notified of this a couple of days ago, so we need to hear what their next course of action is. But other than that, the commissioning did go well, and I have not heard yet if there's going to need to be additional days for that. But once we get the responses back for the recent the CX log, then we'll have a better idea on how much more commissioning is actually needed to complete. And that's really all I have for the first 3, personally.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Jim, did you want to add anything about the rooftop units or the commissioning site visit? I know you and I had a conversation with the commissioning agent the other day. And
Yeah, I do, Peter. Jonathan, I'm just curious, what's the status of rooftop 3? Is all the repairs, the fans been changed, the motor's been changed? Is all that work complete?
So the one that I knew of that needed the fan, they did not put that one in because of the fuses blowing on the other one. Now they're concerned that it's a bigger issue again, where they originally thought it was the electrical supply from the street. Then we had determined that it wasn't, but now with these new fuses blowing on the other unit, I mean, I can't answer this myself, but we'll have to talk to Adams and see why this is going on.
Okay, well, who has to talk to Adams? It's not going to be the town. I would imagine that you need to take care of this. This has been going on now since, before summer, and now we're in the winter, and nobody's going to be going up there and working on those rooftops, and it just goes to, we still don't have a fully operational HVAC system in that building. And I'm going to just, slide right into the commissioning. There were several items that were picked up again during commissioning that go back to the original install where stuff wasn't hooked up, stuff is in place and it was never wired, wasn't hooked up. And we're over a year in that building, and there's stuff that we're finding that still isn't even inoperable in the HVAC system. I have some concerns, some deep concerns that, we have a CX log that there are responses that came in that, yep, it's all set. But I want things verified. Our contract with NV5 is just about fulfilled, and I think that we need to go back and verify for sure that the stuff that's been on this log, and it's quite an extensive log. I'm not saying we need to verify every single point on it, but I want some verification that this thing, that these problems have been taken care of. We were hoping that when NV5 came back the last time, that they would be able to have some time to go and review some of the other items. But unfortunately, because they found so many additional items, that their time was used up, and they were there all day, and he couldn't go back and verify some of the older items. So I think it's something that us as a committee needs to talk about. Possibly, some additional time is needed with NV5 to go back and verify some of this stuff and make sure that things are actually the way they're supposed to be after the corrections they're stated that they've been fixed. But I don't have 100% confidence in that.
So, Jonathan, you mentioned, and you're correct, committee members, the commissioning agent was on site last Monday, the 26th of October, performed some commissioning services, and the report came out Monday. So with respect to the report coming back from the commissioning agent, it was Monday. Jonathan mentioned they just received it, which is accurate. He's sharing it with his subcontractors. Jonathan, do you think you or your office, Adams, Roberto, and all others could get back to Jim and myself in the next day or so regarding the next step on the commissioning report, corrective actions?
Yes, I mean, I sent it to them on Monday, so they do have technically their 5 days to put the response back, but I have requested that they get me something by Friday, so I can at least get something out by the end of the week and we can get this moving. And I will reach out to Adams directly after this and see what their plan is. This is definitely not good news that more issues came up, and they're just as confused now about those new fuses, and we haven't heard a lot about it, which is why we do need to directly talk to them a little bit more and see what they're going to know, what their course of action is, and who they want from the power company, if they still believe it is street supply issue. Again, I don't know this stuff in detail to speak on it, but yes, I will make sure we get some news by the end of the week on where this.
Jonathan, this is Al Gordon. Didn't you say earlier that they had ruled out the power source from the street as being the problem?
So they did, and then from the testing they did on the roof the last visit when Johnson was there. However, with these new fuses, now it's brought a different issue back up, and they're leaning back on the fact that it could be a supply issue. What I'm being.
And I want to just state, it's not a supply issue. We went through this when they were up there, when Energy was there. If it was a supply issue, I'd be having problems with with way more than just those RTUs in that building. And there's all types of sensors, there's everything in there. And if we were having power issues, I'd be getting alarms all the time on numerous items in that building. And that's not the case. I was under the assumption that was ruled out. I didn't believe it when they first said it. And I was under the assumption that's ruled out. So, I know you need to speak with them and go over it again, but I don't want to be looking at, you can look at it if you want, but to me, it's just a waste of time, because I would have multiple issues in that building if it was a power supply issue. We have servers in that room. The police department has many items. There'd be problems everywhere. And that's not the case.
Yeah, I agree with Jim on this. Jim, are you saying you had trouble with NV5 getting them to respond to you also?
Say that again, Al. And
Were you having trouble with NV5 as far as getting a response from them?
No. I actually had a conference call with Peter and NV5. It was the day I was setting up for the election, so I wasn't in the building. I had to do it from my cell phone. He had sent, that was on Monday. That's when he sent his report. We went over it during the conference call. I didn't have it right in front of me, the report, because like I said, I was on my phone. But when I got back to the building later that afternoon, I did review all the items that were there that we had discussed during our conference call. And, it's just a little dislightening that, at this point in the game, we're still having all these issues with stuff that was, never hooked up or hooked up wrong. It just doesn't give me any confidence in the HVAC system in the building. One other issue that came up this week, and I ended up, because this question on, are we still in warranty? Are we not in warranty? We've made some discussions with extended warranties, but there's been nothing put in writing and said, yes, we are. So I have an HVAC maintenance contractor for that building. And I had an issue in Youth and Family Services that they showed up to work in the morning and it was 59 degrees in their office. And, they immediately called. The amount of people running space heaters in that building, because they can't, it doesn't maintain a comfortable temperature, is ridiculous for, a brand new building. But that's another point. But anyway, I brought in Capital Engineering, who's my HVAC contractor, and they found that the radiant heat panels in that room that are above the ceiling were all closed. So there was no flow going through them at all. And then there was the VAV that was in the ceiling was, for all good bits and purposes, it was closed. It was just cracked open, so there was minimal flow through it. So it was providing no heat. So, our contractor opened it up. They ran it through its paces, and now the room is up and running. But, this is stuff that, we're finding a year after being in the building. And I just don't know, why this is happening.
Jonathan, this is Peter. As you read the report from the commissioning agent that just came out, as Jim just described, in my review, in my discussions, I'll just hit a couple of other items. Please share this with the subcontractors. The conversation should not be limited to the rooftop units. There's certainly issues that came up on last Monday, the VAV boxes, the cabinet unit heaters, the thermostat, the graphics, the makeup air dampers, and the controls. Many, many items beyond rooftop units still need to be addressed to make sure, A, they're properly installed in compliance with the contract documents, and that they are truly up and running and operational. So as Jim has just described and we've been talking, yes, we thought we were whittling the list down, but in fact, we've increased the list. So it is a little disheartening at this point in the timeline. Please address this without delay with Adams and Roberto.
Okay. Plan.
Jim, anything else on commissioning or Jonathan?
No.
Okay, can we move down to the next item, item 3A, sub Roman numeral 4. Just committee members and Jim, there's been some conversations about Johnson Controls sending an invoice in. Jim, you saw the email traffic regarding that. Anything you want to mention on that for the committee?
Well,
Yeah, please.
I responded to that email this morning, Pete. I don't know if you had a chance to review it. It was from Johnson Controls. He
Yeah.
came back saying that the town was well aware that we were gonna, there would be a charge for the labor for them to come out. However, the invoice I received totaling
Jim, can
$79.
you hold on just a minute, please, Jim?
Yeah. Yes.
Al Gordon, can
Yeah,
you allow Christie into the meeting? She's trying to get in and,
yeah, I don't
No.
have any control over that. I'm not quite sure who allows us into the room, but I just got the text message from Christie also.
Jim, do you have that authority?
I do not, no.
I think it's Westborough TV.
It's got to be
Dexter.
Westborough TV. Can Westborough TV let Christie in? I don't see it happening.
No, I
Westborough
don't see it
TV
either.
Westborough TV is muted.
Jim, is Christie in your building there?
I haven't seen her, Al, this morning.
Okay.
She could be at home. All right, well,
She may at least be able to join by the phone.
she still has to be let in one way or the other, whether it's by phone or by video.
Oh.
And I don't know who's the moderator here. Is Westborough TV, you think, Jim?
I believe it is.
Yes.
Well, they should be hearing us, I would think.
Hey, Dexter, this is Brian Humes. I'm listening in by phone, and I didn't need to get invited in by the phone contact.
Right, me neither.
I just dialed in
Okay.
and I had access.
Okay, I don't know if she's, let me see.
Want me to text her?
No, I think I just got a message from who's 7226. That might be Westborough TV. Well, I don't know who's got control. Who's the last one that came in? It was 508 with the 15 number. Is that Christie?
No, hi,
No.
this is Fred Leonardo. It may be me.
Okay, I see Westborough TV is at the bottom of the screen, but they're muted according to what is shown here.
Yeah, but I wouldn't think they'd be I wouldn't think they'd be the moderator here.
Yeah. And I know it was set up through our IT people, but I'm
Right.
not quite sure.
Well, I don't know what to tell Christie here. We can't,
Maybe she can contact Mark Stockman. He might be able to get her access.
Yeah, I don't think Mark's in the building. I'm gonna just step out for 1 second and run over there and let Walter know that he needs access and see if that'll help.
Okay,
okay. Sounds like a plan.
all right. We'll just put things on hold for a minute until Jim comes back.
Yeah. Yeah, because this next item is kind of significant.
Al, this is Fred Leonardo. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Fred.
Okay, great, because I'm on the phone. I wasn't sure if you can hear me, but anyway, thank you.
Yes.
Morning, Fred.
Good morning. I also I don't have my camera, but I try to log in through the computer to at least see it, but it wouldn't let me join either.
Technology, Fred.
Yeah, trust me, Al, I hate it all. But generally, I've had this issue. If whoever set up the Zoom meeting, you can also make it that they have to allow people in. So whoever did the original setup or the original invitation, they probably are the ones that would have to say, yes, you can join.
Okay. Yeah, this
I
time
am
here.
taking note of this.
Okay. Ann's set it up for us this time here. It was different than what we've had in the past. So it's just a matter of she probably needs a list from us of who to allow into the room.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't think she can do it over the telephone. I think she's got to be on the video.
Right. But I think she can hear us now. And I mean, obviously, we need Christie on the list, and Fred Leonardo also needs to be on the list.
Well, yeah, that's fine. I couldn't see or hear you anyway today because, as I said, I forgot my camera at home.
Okay. Enzo, did you get those two to add to your list?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. I think Jim's back.
Yep, all set.
Is she, was she there?
No, there's nobody in IT.
Okay.
I just tried calling, and I went to voice. So if they call me back, I'll step out again and see if I can help her out.
Okay, I guess we can move on then if you want to continue, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So committee members, just for your information, an invoice was sent to the town from Johnson Controls for work that they performed on rooftop unit number 3. The amount of the invoice was, as you can see there, $7,918.70. And there's been some communications back and forth. Jim, I'll let you jump in if you want. You want me to explain it? Either way.
I can let you explain it. I will just say that the town, with Peter, had reached out to Johnson Controls back during the summer when we had no AC or ventilation in that building, for some assistance, because we just seemed to be at a stalemate as far as getting things done over there, and it just was getting to the point where people were going home from work and things like that because it was uncomfortable. We decided to bring Johnson Controls in as the expert, since it's their units, to see if we can get the thing up and running. We were able to, accomplish that. They've been back a couple of other times to install parts and everything. And the town, and Peter can verify with that, we were aware that they would not be covering labor for this, but because of the situation we were in, we needed to get that unit up and running. So we agreed to bring them back. So the invoice came in totaled $79.18. And when I reviewed it, it's about a 50-50 split between labor and parts. Now, I was under the assumption during our meetings with Johnson Controls that parts were all going to be warranted. So when I got that, I forwarded it. When I get the original invoice, I forwarded it on to Peter. Johnson Controls responded yesterday afternoon saying that the town was well aware that we were going to pay, that labor was going to be charged, but he didn't touch on the parts part of it. So I responded to his email this morning saying the town was aware of the labor. However, you have I think it's $4,900 worth of parts that we are not going to pay for. We were under the assumption that it was all under warranty. So we haven't had any response back, but we did receive the invoice, and now we just got to figure out who's going to pay for it.
Well, it was nice of them to send the bill to the town, but I'm not sure that that's the right place. Even though in the warranty, Peter Collins, isn't labor materials covered in the warranty?
Traditionally, yes. The 1-year warranty includes labor, parts, and material. Yep.
Yeah. So As far as I'm concerned, I'm not gonna vote to pay that. I don't know where it goes, but it's certainly not in our, on our sphere.
Yep, I just
Yep.
wanted to make the committee aware of that.
What's,
That invoice is out.
Peter Collins, what's your take on this?
Just got it. It doesn't sound like it does, but to me, it doesn't sound like it's a payment that's due by the town.
All right, well, so let's set that aside and bring it up at the next meeting. No sense to spin wheels on it if it's still in discussion with Peter Collins and others.
Right. I'd like to hear from Jonathan. Is he aware of this?
It was as of late last night. So again, I have not had any time to look at this or talk with anybody about it. So
Yeah.
speak on it.
Pass over that one now.
Okay, we're gonna pass over that right now. I believe we'll take a consensus, but I think Dexter, you're in agreement?
The agreement to pass over it? Yeah.
Pass over, yes. Okay. Peter O'Neill?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. Jim Stewart?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Al Gordon, yes. So it's unanimous. We'll pass that over. Hopefully we can get an answer before or at the next meeting.
Right.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Just so you know, we were not presenting that invoice for approval. We were just bringing it to the attention of the committee at this time for information. Nonetheless,
That's
moving
fine.
on.
We just don't need to talk about it anymore.
Jonathan, could I turn this back over to you for items 5, 6, and 7 with respect to owner training, closeout documentation, and maintenance stock?
All right. So to start with training, I've sent a calendar out to Jim and he's given me the availability all the way through December. And we have the generator training upcoming. We also have the lighting controls training upcoming. And then there was 6 additional days, I believe, that were available. And Adams this morning actually just said they confirmed 3 of them. So I'll be sending out another email to get 3 of the HVAC days done. That leaves us with some controls days and some leftover energy electric days that are owed, which will have to go into January, February, and I'll work with Jim to get the availability of the town on them to get everything scheduled and completely taken care of. I know that the plumbing was done, and I'm just waiting to get the video with the transcript to send that over to Jim for his records. That's pretty much the update I have for training. As far as everything seems to be moving forward. It's just a matter of getting it scheduled and making sure that what's been provided is adequate. And then with the closeout documents, they are all set with the exception of the site survey, which we received back as a revise and resubmit, and we have resubmitted it as of yesterday. So we're just waiting on a final review. Once that comes back, whether it's approved or not, we'll either bring the hard copies or we'll revise a second time. And maintenance stock, I did provide another update yesterday. I've been told, and I do have to confirm with Jim, that Arujo did drop off their plumbing materials during their training, and HVAC attic stock and controls was supposed to be dropped off as well. Again, I have to confirm that with Jim to be sure, but we did also get a list from Energy Electric showing all the items that they will be providing, many of which are on order right now, and I'm just waiting to get a lead time, but it is a considerable amount of attic stock that they have put on order. And the only item that we're unsure on what exactly we're getting is the paint. And I actually spoke with Spiros yesterday, and they do have a delivery that they're planning to get sent out on the 16th. And I'm just waiting on an inventory list so we can put it together and make sure they're giving us everything and it meets back. So with that being said, that's all I have for updates on them 3 items.
So I'll just speak on Arugio did bring some attic stock when they were here. There's a transmittal that I signed. There was a couple of things that he brought up during our training. One of them was the main mixing valve cartridges for the hot water tank. He said that 2 of those were left and given to Matt. And I haven't been able to locate them in the building, so I don't know where those are. So that's something that's a discrepancy right now. It's the mixing valve cartridges for the hot water tank. They say they left 2 with Matt. Besides that, there is in the downstairs woman's bathroom on the back side of the gym, there's a cabinet in there that contains a water hammer device, and it's a locked cabinet. And as I walked through and we were going through the training, he told me that was what was in there, and I said, "Well, can we open it up?" And he goes, "Do you have the key?" And I went, "I don't have any keys." So I'm just curious on where the keys to that cabinet ended up, because I certainly didn't have any turned over to me for that. So I wanted to bring that up during this part of the discussion. And then I did receive from Jonathan a list of attic stock for Energy Electric, and it's quite a substantial list. I haven't, Jonathan, I'm going to have to rely on you for this, because I mean, he has, a list here of what he owes, but I just need to verify that those numbers coincide with what is actually in the specifications. And I would hope you could take a look at that and, assure me that that is the proper amount of pieces we're supposed to be receiving.
Yes, and I did give him the spec breakdown that called for the exact amounts on every item, and that's what they based the numbers on. I went back and forth with them for quite some time to get this list that I did send over. But yes, I can definitely have them verify. Again, that meets all those numbers.
So the only other thing, Jonathan, I want to bring up about attic stock is Matt was in the building, I don't know, I think it was probably 3 weeks ago, it might have been a month ago, with the flooring vendor, doing a inventory of what was there. And Matt was supposed to get back to me with a list of stuff that was still required. I didn't receive any reports from that meeting. So I'm just curious on how we are as far as, carpet tile, grout, everything that we're needing for flooring, where we're at with what we have on site compared to what is owed, and what they are going to be bringing me.
Yeah, so I did update the list with there was maybe 3 or 4 items that he realized were not there in order to meet all the requirements. And I did note on them that he had put the amounts in that were owed, and he was planning on getting them shipped to site. I haven't heard on his lead time, but he did provide the same list that he provided me from the beginning, which is what I built that list off of. And I can share that with you and show the 3 or 4 items that he mentioned that weren't on site, but the rest were verified. They were even verified the first time from the original list, but he went back and verified them again himself. And then those few items were updated. And again, they are on the list that I sent, but I can send you what he gave us.
Well, I mean, I just have some concerns about, I know exactly where that stuff is, and I went down there, and one of the things that I have an issue with is the fact that the grout that we have down there is, quite a few of the bags are hard as a rock. They sat outside under this carport for the longest time, and then they were moved into the building, and it might be a new bag, but it sat outside for I don't even know how long they were out there, and it's unusable. So I don't know if that's on the list. I'll go over with, offline, me and you can go over this, but I just, I want to make sure that we have stuff like that, because, matching colors down the road could be an issue. So I want to just make sure that we have the proper amount of stuff.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else regarding maintenance stock, attic stock? Thank you for that update. Moving down the list, just an update for the committee on the ADA, AAB items. There was a meeting, video conference discussion held on the 13th of October with the designer, the contractor, the OPM, the facilities director, and the building commissioner regarding discussion on the report with respect to issues or variances on the ADA, AAB items. Maybe I can ask Brian if you'd like to add any points of interest on this or points of comment.
Sure, Peter. we did have that meeting, and as a result of that meeting, we determined that there were 17 items that were going to be submitted to the Mass Architectural Access Board for a variance. And that variance application was completed and submitted to the state. As part of the application, we also had to submit it to Independent Learning Center within the region of Westborough. So it determined that the Independent Learning Center for Westborough is in Worcester, Massachusetts. So we submitted application to the state, and we also forwarded an application to this Worcester Independent Learning Center and also to Fred's attention. So in summary, the 17 items that we submitted for a variance, 13 of the 17 items is what they call the modified adjustment or modified variance. And in a modified variance, all we're looking to do is get dimensional relief. So these are items that may be off by anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch. And we're looking to get relief just on the variance discrepancy. And they called that a modified variance request. So that's 13 of the 17, and I'm feeling, if I could say confident, I'm hopeful that those 13 of the 17, because they're just a modification, that we'll get that granted. So it leaves 4 of the 17 having to do with doors that were reusing existing openings. And in those 4 instances, we're asking for full relief, which means it's not a modification of the dimension. It's asking for a waiver of that installation and relief because we reused existing openings. Now they're new doors, or they're new doors and new frames, but the new doors and new frames were put into existing openings and within the existing building. So those are harder to get, and they look at those a little closer, and it's anybody's guess on what they'll do with those 4, but we're hoping that we get relief on all 17. Now, it was submitted in late October. They have a 30-day waiting period before they will look at the application, because they need the 30-day waiting period for the Independent Learning Center to review and comment on the application. So they don't do anything for the first 30 days. If they don't get anything from the Independent Learning Center, they will then put the application on their agenda, and they're saying at that point it could be 6 weeks after that. So in the timeline, we probably will not be hearing anything back until mid to late January of 2021. And it's really, all of our work's been done. The application fee's been paid. The submission's been put in. And I think we just now have to wait until it goes through the process at the state level. Now, there are some items that were elected not to go on to the variance request. And some of those items, the town is looking to relieve, if that's a term that I can use, or just not pursue a variance. And one of those items would be the handrail height in the existing stairwell. So that was not part of the variance request. And that was what the meeting was with ourselves and Fred and 5 Star and the OPM to determine what are the items that we are seeking a variance, what are the items that still need to be brought into compliance, and what items are just going to be put off till a time when or not addressed at this time. And those were put into the categories. So there are some things that 5 Star is still going to be doing to get some items into compliance. It doesn't mean that the variance request addressed everything, but it did address the things that we felt could be brought to the state and ask for relief. 5 Star is going to be moving a grab bar and a unisex bathroom on the main floor off the police lobby. That was on the list. They still had agreed to move the latches on the toilet partitions. So that's not a variance request. So we still have different categories of buckets. I just wanted to report on the 17 items that went to the state. And if there's any questions, I can answer those.
Fred, do you have any comment in regards to this?
Yeah, I concur with everything Brian said. The only thing I'd add to that also is I'm glad to see that the outside exterior handrails on the police side of the ramp, they were out here, I want to say yesterday or Monday. My days get jumbled up, but they've made that change. So that was one item that should come off the list. I think they just have to paint the new extension. So that was an item on the list. I'm glad to see that was taken care of. I appreciate that. And if I can back up just one item too, is the certified site survey that went to engineering. Engineering had comments. Matt Rex just emailed back this week revisions to that. So I'm waiting to hear from engineering to see if those revisions are sufficient. So that's also in the process too. That's all I had. Sorry.
Thanks, Fred.
Yep.
Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Brian, for that update regarding the process in particular with the state and the access board. And as you said, we'll wait and see what happens in the next 30 days, then the following 60 days. And thank you, Fred, Jim, and Five Star for that meeting we all had on the 13th. It was a good discussion. We went through it in a thorough manner. So that was a good process. Moving down the list, next thing, just an update. Maybe Jim, Stuart, you could give us some update on the locker room thresholds and the water flow quantity per gallons per use in the toilet room.
Sure. So we received the first try thresholds that we tried, and when they came in, I determined that they were not going to work the way I thought they were. So I ordered a second set of a different type. Those came in. They've been installed in the men's locker room, and I'm happy to say they're working perfectly. The chief called the other day, and we were speaking, and he brought it up that, oh, by the way, I just want to thank you and Danny for taking care of that. It's working fine. There's no more water leaving the showers and running down into the bathroom. So the thresholds are a success. I ordered enough to do the men's locker room. That's all done. There's two more that I've ordered to finish the women's locker room, and that'll be all set. As far as the water flow, when we had our training with Arugio, I discussed with him what our problem was, what we felt our problem was. Told him about the blockage we had. So during our training, we went and adjusted every urinal and water closet in the building. So they're all at their max potential right now. And we'll see if that helps resolve any issues we have with flushing and things like that. But everything has been turned up, and the thresholds are 90% complete. We just have the two to do in the women's locker room, and that'll be off our plate.
Great. Thank you very much for
All right,
that.
Peter, if I could just, I don't know if this is the proper time to bring it up or not. Maybe would discuss with Jim Stewart the issue we have with the flooding in the cell block.
Sure. Yes, Mr. Chairman, please.
That may come under the water flow here also. Jim, you wanted to bring everybody up to date on this?
So I don't know if everyone's aware that we had an incident in the Forbes building a couple weeks ago. I think it was a Friday or a Saturday. And Saturday night that a prisoner had basically got a hold of the sprinkler head inside the cell and pulled it out of the ceiling, and it flooded the parts of the building. Mainly the men's side of the detention area. The water flowed out of the cell. There's a floor drain right outside that detention cell that should have taking care of that water, but the drain wouldn't take any water. So the water made its way down the corridor out into the police station. The fire department showed up very quickly, shut off the flow of water, and proceeded to squeegee all the water out into the Sally port. From there, it went into the drain. It exited the building into the oil water separator outside, where it came back into the building to go to the ejector pump. That's, I believe it's 017 room. It's behind the gym. There's an ejector pump in the floor there. Unfortunately, during our training, we determined, because our training was basically 2 days after this event. So when Arugio was here, I wanted them to open that ejector pump up and show me that their pumps work. And I wanted to kind of do a timing on how long it took to pump down the tank. We determined at that time that pump 1, which is the primary pump, was in fault and wasn't working, and had never worked since brand new. There's 2 hour meters that are inside the control box there for the pumps, and pump 2 was reading pump 1 was reading 0000.0. So it had never had any time on it since brand new, which meant that an additional 8 inches of water in that tank came up before pump 2, and that's approximately 8 inches of water. Before pump 2 started to pump the water out into the street. But unfortunately, with just one pump, the water was overcome the tank, and it ended up backing up in all the floor drains in the basement level. So we had quite a bit of water damage in the basement level on this. The whole gym floor had to be ripped up. Drywall was cut up a foot pretty much through most of the downstairs. There was a few spots that it didn't affect, but so that's what happened with that. I talked to Rugio about that floor drain, the one that didn't take water. Was told that was an existing to remain floor drain. And I had asked him, was that drain ever inspected or cameraed? And, his answer was that he did not believe so. But it wasn't part of his scope of work to do anything with that drain. So anyway, I have a company come to camera that section of drain through there to see if there is a blockage, and if it is, what we have to do to fix it. Rugio did bring me into the basement, and we located where the trap is for that drain. Unfortunately, it's almost not accessible. It's right up against a wall, and then when the new steel was laid for the floor, the steel's right up against it on the other way, so you pretty well can't get your hands up in there or a wrench or anything to get it off. So I don't know what we're going to do about that if that trap has to be removed, but as of right now, I'm just waiting for the company to show up to camera that drain so we can determine what our next course of action will be.
So Peter, this is Brian Humes. I just wanted to address the design side of that. Sprinklers in the cells are a requirement. They were installed. They are an institutional type head, and they're designed for cells. But what that means is the pin, when you're putting pressure on the activation head, it means that the pin will release before anybody can commit a suicide. So it's not that you can take this sprinkler head and you can hang off of it. So the institutional aspect of the sprinkler head means that the pin will release under excess pressure if they're looking to hook something onto it. Now, code requires these sprinkler heads, and it's the correct type for the application. but that's the necessary evil that if somebody does try to hook a cloth or a t-shirt or something onto these heads and try to commit a suicide off of them, they will release. And it's against the public health code to put floor drains within cells. So while we know that there's a hazard to put a sprinkler head within a cell, we're not allowed to put floor drains within cells. So the floor drains are always outside of the cell block. And that drain that's outside that Jim's talking about in the floor is designed to take the water if this happens. So yeah, there's a cleanup that has to happen, but why that floor drain outside the cell did not take water is really the key to the whole design issue, that those drains should have been able to take the flow of water. So I just wanted to give you the design aspect of it and why it's operating the way it does. Now, the other thing that we've done in the design is within the cell area itself, we've placed a shutoff valve for the sprinklers if this was to happen. So I hope that was a convenience that you do have the way to shut that water off as soon as this happens or as soon as possible, so we don't have to continue the flow of water once we found that it's not a fire event. So,
Brian, this is Al Gordon. I have talked to Chief Laurie, and the system did work the way it was designed to work. But the problem was after the fire department shut off the flow of water for the sprinklers, all of the water from the rest of the building drained out through that system. There was no way to stop the water from coming back in.
yeah. Yeah, well, as I say, there should be a way to drain it. There should be a way to get rid of it and not have to have all the damage that occurred. So that's the unfortunate part of this story, is the design was not so the water ends up in the basement.
Right. It obviously appears that the drain downstairs where there's two pumps, the main pump was not working, and that is certainly an issue. And like I said, when Jim was talking about the amount of time that was on that pump, it shows that it had never been activated. That pump should have been activated and tested prior to the building being turned over to us.
Agreed.
I don't know.
So what's the resolution here, Al?
Right now they're still, I think Jim is still working with the, must be Maya, to determine the amount of damages to the building, and it's got to be resurrected. I think they've already mitigated the mold and everything. I think companies come in and taking care of that, but we've got to get the building fixed, but we've also got to make sure that that pump's working in case of another issue.
So
You're saying the floor drain is okay? The one that Brian says is outside the cell, that's working fine? It just dumped the water into the ejector pump and the ejector pump didn't work?
No, that pump, that drain is not working properly. According to Jim, we're going to have to scope that because that wasn't part of the scope of the work, I believe. When the building was renovated, I believe they did not replace that.
So the issue was that was not evaluated to see that it was a functioning drain.
That's what it appears.
All right, so we've got somebody that Brian's going to get in to determine whether that's functioning or not. Hell of an assumption to make at this point that it was supposed to be functioning and now it's not.
Well, Dexter, I have a company coming to camera that particular stretch of drain through there, so we can find out. I mean, I'm hoping that it's just clogged. Maybe construction debris got in there. I mean, I don't know what it could be. Rather than, we find something that's collapsed or needs to be replaced. That would be a whole different ball game. But we're working on that, and I think it was just a couple of different things. First of all, what Brian said is absolutely true. I had Carlisle on site that evening, and he said basically, mimicked exactly what Brian just said. Those are institutional heads, and they are designed to, unfortunately, to pull out if anybody can't, pulls on them or tries to tie something to them, they dislodge and come out so that a suicide can't happen. That being said, if the floor drains had worked, out there. I think that might have been a factor. And then if, as we went further along, there was multiple things that caused it to happen. We're just trying to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Okay, good, Jim. That's great. Just keep on it. And, if we need to beat on somebody to make it right, we'll do it.
Jim Stewart, have we located the shut-off valve so that if somebody does pull another head out of the ceiling, we can shut it off so we don't get everything that's in the system draining back into the police area?
Yes, we did locate some valves. I have a call into Carlisle and they haven't responded back. I just want to make sure that the valve that I believe that it is will actually, I want to make sure it won't just cause the pressurized water to stop if I close that valve down, because the water that came out of there after the water was shut off, we shut it off at the PIV valve outside. If the water has been shut off, the pressurized water, the water that still came out of there was basically residual water that was left in the lines. And I want to make sure that that control valve, if it is shut down, would have also prevented that. But yes, we did locate a valve. We're just not sure of an exact what it does. I reviewed my training video. We talked about the valve, and there's still a little bit of a discrepancy in our heads. There's also a check valve associated right there too, but I'm just waiting on some clarification on that.
But Jim, Brian should be able to tell you that.
What was that, Dexter?
Brian should be able to tell you that.
Yeah, I can assist with that, Jim.
Okay, Brian.
Okay. And I think once we determine that it will do what we want it to do, we need to train the police department who are working so that they can shut it off, because if it happens on the weekend or something, by the time somebody from your staff, Jim, gets in there to shut it down, all the water's going to be out of the system anyway.
Yep, I agree, Al.
Okay, I guess we can move on then.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for your input on that last discussion. Next item is the carport roof drains and gutters. I know Jim Stewart and I spoke yesterday or the day before regarding this item, so I put it on the agenda. Jim, if you want to add something.
Well, I'm going to kind of defer this to Al
Okay.
right now, because I know you did speak with the chief directly and know of the circumstances that happened that evening.
All right. Looking back, about 10 months ago, we had one of the officers slip, fall underneath the carport out back from the ice that had formed out there. He is still out of work now, unknown when he's going to return. He's had surgeries. The water, this was addressed, I believe, 2 meetings ago. I brought up the subject with Brian, asking about the, if it was drawn up to have gutters on there. And Brian told us it was not. But anyway, last weekend, we had 2 more officers fall out in the back because of the ice buildup underneath there where the water was draining off. So we've got to do something with that out back there. We're going to have to put storm drains on there. We're going to have those heated because of the way the water flows off there. It's going to freeze up.
Okay. Okay. That was Bobby, Mr. Chairman, the results of the snowstorm we had on Saturday or Friday, Saturday.
That's correct. Yeah, and like I said, we've got to do something. I mean, it's going to be a little expensive, but it's certainly a lot less expensive than having to pay a disability on somebody getting hurt out there and going out on a 72% disability.
Okay. Is it consideration of the committee to have the designer and the OPM work with facilities to come up with a solution?
In my opinion, yes. I think we've got to get something going on this, because the longer we wait, it's gonna be the same problem. But as I discussed with Brian there a couple meetings ago, I can't really understand why they would not have put any kind of drains on there, because I've talked to other departments and only one actually they have a single roof over theirs, and their drains goes off the back of the building with no gutters, but it drains off into a grassy area, so it does not affect the pavement where the cruisers are parked. But again, it just doesn't, it's not logical to me to allow the water just to run off, because it's not draining anywhere other than just sitting on the pavement, and it's gonna freeze.
I'd just like to bring up, I would ask the committee that maybe just give me a little bit of time to look into this ourselves as a town, rather than, having the designer or the OPM get involved with it. I mean, it's something that we're going to have to pay for either way. And I just think that there are options that we can, pursue that might try to hold costs down a little bit. I don't know about that. I haven't looked into it quite yet, but I have talked to our town engineer about, where the water needs to go and how he would run it. And then the length of that, I'm not quite sure that we can put a gutter there from one end to the other with one single downspout or two, one on each side. I think that the run might be a little bit too long, where, it might be a little bit more involved, to where it'll have to pitch to both ends and then go into downspouts. But I think there's a little bit more research that needs to be done on our part, on the town's part, before we, go into bringing in an architect or anybody else to design something.
Yeah,
I'd agree with you, Jim. I'd agree with Jim. And I don't know if gutters are going to work. I mean, they're going to freeze before the pavement will freeze. So I think you need some engineering, but we'll see what you can find and what you can dig up, Jim, in the meantime, to come up with a reasonable solution.
Right. I do know, Dexter, they do make a heated gutter. Now, there's no power right now at the carport. However, Matt did run some pathways there, so power can be brought out there. So if heated gutters are a solution, we are able to get power. At least we don't have to tear up all the hot top and run wires. There is a pathway to bring lines out there. So I just like to do a little bit more research on it before we go bringing in other people.
I can agree with giving Jim the opportunity to look into it and get back to us.
Yep.
Peter O'Neill here. I also agree. I mean, that to me just seems to be a thing that's going to happen again and again and again if we can't mitigate water just falling off the roof, freezing on the ground, which is a hard surface, which will form a nice skating area. And I just think we really have to push forward on that. And unfortunately, we're getting into bad weather.
Right.
I think we do have to address it. So
right. I did, Peter, I did talk to Jim Stewart, and I believe they're putting a spreader out there with some rock salt or something, and then the officers can go out there, but that's not their job. They should not have to do that.
Al, I also I was in a meeting at the DPW the other on Tuesday morning. The DPW is going to drop me off a barrel, one of those blue barrels with the X's, and it's going to be full of sand salt mix. I think that'll be a better deterrent rather than just the straight salt. The straight salt's going to wash away. So at least if there's some grit laying there, we might be able to still have some traction. So they're going to drop off a barrel there, and they're going to make sure it stays full. There again, it would be an officer, if it's a weekend or something like that, or in the evening, that would need to address it. But hopefully, we can come up with a permanent solution, sooner than later.
No, I agree with that, Jim. And if you could get that as soon as possible, because, as it was said there, it's going to continue to get worse as the cold weather moves in permanently for the winter.
Okay.
Okay, you want to move along, Peter?
Yes, certainly, Mr.
Peter,
Chairman.
I'm sorry to interrupt for 1 second. It's Fred Leonardo. I have to jump on to another meeting, but I don't think there's anything else the committee needed from me.
I'm all set, Fred. This is Peter.
All right, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Okay, moving down the list, committee members, the next couple of items, moving to item 4 is basically budgets and contracts. Not much change, in fact, no change to the change order look ahead, construction change order, the OPM owner's look ahead cost, and the budget. I can call them up right now in a different screen. 1 second. But I did send these out. That's the punch list. Here is the change order log, same as the last meeting we had, no change there, just a date change. The owner look ahead cost, again, no change there, just a date change. Then with respect to the budget, just no updates really. I'll go to the bottom line, which is what we always seem to look at because information above, and I will zoom in on the bottom line, which still remains similar to or exactly as it was a month ago with respect to what is considered to be available or uncommitted project budget funds, which is the $220,209.50.
Peter, what's, you've got the line that has the 55,000 covert quiet rooms.
Huh.
I think maybe that's not the right word you want to use in there.
You should say convert. Sorry. Thank you for that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's just significant difference in the wording.
Yeah, you're right. My thumb got in the way with the typewriter. Okay, yes. Committee members, I've left those things on there. If it's acceptable, I can take off the quiet rooms if that's no longer going to be considered. I could take off the boiler room exhaust, the railing modifications also as well. Just, I thought I'd leave them on there, but until otherwise instructed.
Are we all done with the interior railings?
That was, as mentioned earlier, that is something that will not be pursued.
So the AAB is giving us a variance on it?
No, that was not pursued. That was not being considered as part of the variance that was submitted to the state.
Okay.
As mentioned by Brian earlier this morning.
Is Christie on board with that?
Yes, she was the one that actually determined that they were not going to seek a variance on that, Dexter. So
Okay.
the building will have some non-compliant discrepancies. If you go through the report that first came out, some of those discrepancies will involve the handrails, the elevator cab, some of the things that were not addressed in the renovation, but the town is comfortable with moving forward with those items still in a non-compliant state.
Okay, fine, thank
Well,
you.
hold on. I am on the phone.
Hi, Christy.
Fred and Brian were working on this, and it was not submitted as one of the variances. But I would want to talk to Fred in terms of where we're going from here. So I wouldn't take it off yet.
Okay, that's, I agree with that. Leave it there until we get a resolution between Fred, Brian, and Christie, and they're on board with it.
But I think we can definitely take the covert quiet room off there, correct?
I think we can. And I think we can also take off the boiler room exhaust piping, which I'll do. So those two I will remove for the next meeting.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
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 Back to my list or the agenda item. That concludes item 4. Item 5, an opportunity for new business or general discussion. Public comments not mentioned. Open.
I have a question, Peter O'Neill.
Go ahead, Peter.
A drain, it just made me think when we were talking about the exhaust out of the boiler room. We also had a drain issue where water doesn't flow uphill very well down there. What is the solution or resolve of that area where the water was puddling up in the outside of the door area? By the stairs coming
Yep.
out of that?
Peter, this is Brian Humes. We did issue a design sketch to modify that drain and re-pour that slab at the bottom of the stairs. That sketch was presented to 5-Star and it didn't go any further. So we did not receive any cost proposal on that, or there's been no design, other than design work, there's been no other solution put in place for that. But you do have a sketch that shows you a solution.
Okay, because I don't remember a final resolve on that, as well as the exhaust blowing down over the doorway or whatever the issue was on that. But if we're still going to have a water problem, should it not be something that should be addressed? That's all I'm getting at.
Jim Stewart, are we having an issue down there still?
Yes, as far as water goes. Now, as far as I'll address both issues. The exhaust over the door, the building commissioner, that was on his list originally.
Oh, okay.
He since has taken another look at it and determined that we're going to just leave it as be, the way it is. We didn't have any issues last winter. Now, we didn't have a very strong winter last winter, but there wasn't really any icing issues in front of the door, what we thought would happen from that. So he's decided to take that off the table. As far as the drain goes, for some reason, the old drain that was there that was inoperable is the location where the new drain should be. That is absolutely the lowest point. That's where the water collects. Somehow it got put just right outside, basically a straight shot out the building, and that's where it went, and that's the highest part of that areaway. So it's basically ineffective. Last winter wasn't a big winter, so we didn't really get to see how much of an issue it was going to be. My fears are if we do have a snowy winter and snow piles up in there, basically that's going to be, full of water, and then ice when it freezes all winter until this is resolved. And I wasn't aware, Brian, that you had proposed a sketch to fix that. And why it didn't go any further back, when the project was in full swing, that I can't answer.
Is Jonathan still on?
Yes, I am.
Jonathan, do you have that proposal from Brian?
So we did see the sketch back when this was presented, but then it was determined that nothing was going to be done. That's why no cost or proposal was given.
Peter, were you aware of that?
Yes, in the sense that it was at a point in the project where there were so many other things that were of a higher priority, so to speak, that just kind of lied dormant. And it's probably going to be considered an extra. And whether we wanted 5-Star to do the extra work or someone else, that conversation never did a full circle. So it's correct. It's still on the list of open items of the project to be resolved, and then to be resolved or be performed by who is yet to be determined.
Could we possibly get a cost estimate on that so we know where we stand?
Sure. We can do that.
This is Brian, why don't I get the sketch to Jim? And then Jim might be able to also get a cost independent of 5-Star.
Yeah, that's fine. Jim?
Yeah, Brian, that would be great. If you could just email that over to me, that would be very helpful.
Yep.
Peter O'Neill here. I also think that we shouldn't close that one out. I mean, It may not seem like a big thing in the whole project, but when somebody goes flying out that door on that one day and it's kind of icy and they're wearing their slippery shoes, we're gonna have somebody else go down. So I think it needs to still be considered at some point somehow. And I haven't seen any sketches, so I don't know if we're talking about pouring a thin slab pitch the other way or whether we're talking about, tying the two drains together. I don't know, but I'd like to see something, and I think we have to keep that option kind of open.
This is Brian. It was, just to recall in my memory, it was taking up the slabs that's there and then repouring and repitching a new slab, but also incorporating heating elements within the slab, so icing would not occur.
Okay, we will share the sketch with the committee. We will seek some price proposals and keep it on the list to present at the next building committee meeting for the committee's consideration.
We also need to make sure that that drain works.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yes, you say yes, of course, Peter, but
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, we will, as part of the overall program of finding that solution.
before we do anything.
Yes, yes.
Well, there is a new drain that's installed. It's just that the new drain that's been installed is installed at a higher elevation than the bottom of the areaway.
Right. But again, as long as it works.
Correct.
Okay. We'll look into that as well. Okay. Any other open items or discussion, new business? If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'll move down the list. Item 6, there's no invoices to present at this time. Item 7, just looking ahead for the next building committee meeting on a monthly basis. The first Wednesday has traditionally been the date. That looking, therefore, it would be December 2nd.
That looks good. Everybody have any objection to that?
Nope.
Okay. December
I'm
2nd.
okay with that.
What was that, Peter?
I said I'm okay with that.
Okay. So it looks like everybody's available for that day.
Very good. Okay. Beyond that, item 8 is just the attachments for this report, and that's what the OPM has to present this morning.
Okay. Is there anything else that needs to be brought up?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, Dexter made a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Peter O'Neill. Roll call vote. Dexter,
Aye.
Peter O'Neill,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Earl, and Al Gordon, yes. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Bye,
your input.
everybody.